broad deal and these limitations, there was an attempt to try and carve out an even bigger expansion for Ghanaian participation, which is more dynamic, which looks beyond hawking, which looks beyond petty trading, but which were defeated because the European Union intervened. And that gives us worry, because we are negotiating with the European Union. If the European Union can intervene in the domestic legislative processes and affect the outcome as it is now, what is going to happen when we get back to the European Union in the EPA table, when they are demanding exactly the same array of things and worse, especially when we know that we are under pressure as a country to begin to take the EPA negotiation interim agreement forward? What's going to happen to us? So I leave these things for your thing. A short summary. We have an investment situation where we need to be able to take proactive measures to wrest control and the shape of investment to our domestic sector to restructure our economy. Unfortunately, from the signals that we are getting from the government so far, we are worried that we are returning to square one. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I hope that you provoked highly. It's helpful to provoke every now and then. Unfortunately, the minister has only 20 minutes left before he leaves. So I would like to propose to him that if he can speak maybe 15 minutes and then take 5 minutes to be further provoked, maybe before he leaves with a few questions. So, Minister Haruna, Iddrisu.
All right. I'm taller, so I may attempt to. Thank you very much. First of all, let me express my gratitude to the Economic Justice Network for the platform and the opportunity to be here. I certainly would not have wished to miss this opportunity to enjoy the very brilliant expositions I've heard from Kwesi Pratt and from my very good friend who has done a dissection of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. It's always heartwarming to listen to Kwesi and many others, particularly Yao Graham and Co., because they provide you a useful learning experience. If I were to attempt to be an academic, even though I'm not, I would have titled my paper, to borrow words from Yao Graham some time back, My Dilemma, My Quagma, The Reality. So I'll try in this context to share some opinions with you. Now, and I would wish that along the line there are no cameras so that I can be as honest and sincere on many of these issues. No, for now he can be part. When I get to those other portions, I would ask for him to excuse us. Now, first of all, let me admit that if we need to change the structure of the Ghanaian economy, that should come at the initiative of the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And that imposes a major obligation on whoever for the time being and tomorrow bears that particular portfolio. It's not finance which will change the structure of the economy, it will be trade and industry. And I'll just pick on one aspect. For instance, manufacturing sector. If you have a country which has attained lower income status, you want to be able to transit to upper middle income status. With the kind of poor performance we have witnessed in the last 12 or more years of the manufacturing sector, then you are not likely to build a strong economy which can drive you towards moving upper middle income status. So admittedly, we have a very weak manufacturing sector if you look at its contribution to GDP. And that is where you probably may be able to respond even to the challenges of unemployment if you want to make the best use of your skills. That is not the case. Now, in trying to respond to him, I'll come specific on GIPC bill and to say that yes, we have done a revision of the GIPC bill targeted at achieving two objectives. One, to promote and attract foreign direct investment and to stimulate local investment. And I'll try and respond to some of the issues that he has raised. One, foreign direct investment. You see, in trying to situate Ghana as foreign direct investment, that's why I call the dilemma and the quagma. Ghana is not the only country in the world which is looking for foreign direct investment. So you take a decision or you come with initiative which makes Ghana a relatively better place that any foreign investor will necessarily decide. Comparing Ghana to Mali, Senegal, or Ethiopia, will say that then I settle on Ghana or Accra. So you must be talking of investment within the context of positioning the country as relatively more friendly, relatively a better place to do business, and relatively a better place for investment. So it is not as if to look at Ghana like some of the examples he has given. If you go to put in your investment legislation, and I hope that I don't appear defensive, that any foreign company entering Ghana must necessarily have 30% local participation. The foreign direct investors have an obligation to decide, okay, I rather won't come to Ghana. There are other areas where I can operate as a wholly owned foreign entity. Do you want to miss that opportunity? I won't attempt to give an answer to it. So it's a difficult question sometimes for government. Yes, there is investment. You want to protect your landscape. You are saying that when you are coming in, come in with 30% Ghanaian participation. The foreign investor says that I'm coming to create jobs. I'm coming to participate in the economic development of your country. If I compare you to 4 other West African countries where I can be on my own, I don't see Ghana as potentially the place to do business. That will affect anybody in government or anybody taking a policy decision in order that you don't close every opportunity to a foreign investor. So maybe that will explain why it started off with 30%, then along the line, whether EU or Japan or China or any country, you need to renegotiate your position. Now, two, and Uncle Graham and Co. is brilliant at the law. You are looking at the effect of some of your interventions. Assuming, for instance, you say that importation of pharmaceutical products are reserved for Ghanaians, maybe as a service, domestic. What happens? Some of the medicine you buy in Ghana is from the Global Fund, from the UN. And they say that if I give you my money, you cannot restrict the tender only to domestic companies in Ghana. What about that? You want to lose the opportunity to have that funding when you yourself don't have a budget line to procure critical medicine in your country. That will lead to a quagmire or a dilemma. I don't have the answer to it. So in one breath, you generally want to promote domestic and local businesses. But you are looking at what others call the global context of the world economy, where the world is now intertwined. You have to relate to other parts of the world. What if, even by retaliatory measures, other countries say that don't also export into my country? Yet you are building the capacity of your manufacturing sector with the assumption that tomorrow they may be able to export. You are having a retaliatory measure which says that don't also export to my country because you said that only your citizens can do that. That will give you some quagmire or a dilemma I have no intention to respond to. An interesting example. When I was Minister for Communication, there was an instance where I wanted to promote local participation, as he rightly said, in the telecom sector. So you would notice, and this is for you to do further research, the world has moved to what we call 4th generation network in telecom. We have passed third generation, we are in 4th generation. The 4th generation network is WiMAX and LTE. LTE means long-term evolution. I particularly decided as minister that I wanted to use policy to stimulate local participation. So I issued a policy paper indicating that LTE WiMAX should not be given to any of the existing telecom companies in Ghana. As of today, that is the case. It was to allow for a local party to participate in the acquisition of LTE and WiMAX. We had to redo the tender 3 times because at the close of it, there was no Ghanaian who could raise the minimum capital to participate in that exercise. Now, quagmire and dilemma. This is a government which says it wants revenue. You need to auction your WiMAX LTE license in order to recoup some income and revenue to the state. You are caught in my dilemma. You are caught in my quagmire. even as you want to promote local content. But genuinely, you say, I've reserved 30% for Ghanaian participation. Assuming that 30% is worth $100 million US dollars. You are talking of 30 million US dollars. How many Ghanaians can put down $30 million? One, just for purpose of license acquisition, no investment yet in the infrastructure that will allow for the delivery of the services. So I still will respond to that as my dilemma and my quagmire. Now, fourth, on GIPC and strategic interventions. I think that my colleague who's Tete who spoke got it, but contextually I disagree with him. Now, under the GIPC law, there is a provision which allows for us to have strategic incentives, which incentives are that the president may offer some incentives either to foreign or local investment in order that you locate in some parts of the country. And let me, without being on the defensive again, say that there is no limitation nor a legislative restriction on any Ghanaian investing in any aspect of our national economy. I don't know of one. So any Ghanaian tomorrow who wants to invest, either to set up a manufacturing plant, a processing plant, is free to do so. And government will be happy to support it. My quagmire, my dilemma, the reality is no Ghanaian have demonstrated having that muscle, financial muscle, to do the minimum investment. No Ghanaian. Maybe the argument from Tete and Co will be that let government do it. How much resources that government have to do, that is a question for me and you to answer. But there's no limitation whatsoever. If any Ghanaian, for instance, if any Ghanaian tomorrow decides to crush cashew for exports, you will have market for cashew exports abroad. You will earn good foreign exchange. But is there any Ghanaian today who has the capacity to be able to do that? I'll come to the answer that government probably must intervene. But there is a limitation as to how much government may be able to give to any local businesses. But today, the opportunity exists. We only rely on the foreigners sometimes because that becomes your most reliable opportunity of investment. And I say it in respect of the strategic incentives, and I share my dilemma. If you go to the whole of northern Ghana, Upper East, Upper West, Northern region, known statistically as poverty-stricken regions of our country, including Central region, you will not find one major industrial establishment in the whole of northern Ghana, not one. If you have an example, give me. Who has prevented any Ghanaian from any part of the world from investing? The question is, no wet without in order to be able to invest. So you expect that government will strategically intervene under those circumstances in order to let the investors happen. I gave the example today. If you go to Northern Electricity Department, all the consumers are domestic consumers. There's no industrial consumer because there's no industry in the north. So why we have provided for in the GIPC bill for a strategic incentive is that the president decides tomorrow that if you come to set up an agro-processing or sugarcane plant in Upper East, Upper West, or Bolga, enjoy 5 years tax break. What I want is come and add value to a Ghanaian agricultural produce, come and create employment opportunity. I would not think that that is a bad way to go if government decides that this is how I can stimulate and attract investment. But I entirely agree that it may not be a strategic decision for government, but to provide for a strategic incentive. For instance, and I just use an example which is before me. I met with a Japanese ambassador yesterday over sugarcane factory in northern Ghana. There's also an offer from the Indian government over the same sugarcane factory. My first instance, I said, Japanese ambassador, I will not accept any funding terms which is fundamentally higher than what have been offered by India. Because between the two, I want favorable terms and conditions in terms of financing. I wish I had a local component of that offer. I don't still have. My quagmire, my dilemma. You want to be able to do it. I leave that one to you for answer. So strategic incentive for good reason. How many investors are willing to go to Bolga or to Tamale or to Wa to set up an industrial plant? Zero. So you are doing this as an extra incentive in order that they would want to locate in those areas. Now, even infrastructure, if any investor, even if you go to top industries here, they want the road network there to be better. If the road network is not better and there's flooding during rains, it affects their business. In many of the areas you want investors to go, and that is what I think government must concentrate on. Let us improve basic infrastructure and improve our bureaucracy to deliver efficiently and effectively. So, to quote someone, my honest view is that it is not for government to do business, but government must create an enabling environment for the private sector to do business. I'm sure that may not sit with the philosophical thinking of Tete, neither may it sit with Yao Graham, nor sit with Kwesi. They may disagree philosophically with that thinking. But the new thinking is that, is it for government to do business? Is it for government to do business? Or is it for government to create an enabling environment for the private sector to do business? Sitting where I sit today, I'll opt for the latter. That it is for government to create a conducive and enabling environment for businesses to thrive. I may be wrong by the judgment of other persons. For instance, if the government improves the port, there will be no congestion and there will be speedy clearance of goods and services. But I entirely agree with Tete that to what extent have we used our trade policy to support import substitution and the development of our infant industries? I am not sure I could have done that in the last 6 months as Minister of Trade. Neither will I be able to do it even if I were given a decade as Minister for Trade. Fundamentally, you need to change the structure of the Ghanaian economy. And some of it is attitudinal. If Ghanaians produce rice and Ghanaians won't consume rice, you cannot correct it through some of these interventions. You must choose to eat what you grow and support what is Ghanaian and wear what is Ghanaian. Yes, policy can, maybe through other interventions. I agree perfectly with him. We can look at re-examining import duties on poultry in order that we make the prices prohibitive so that the local poultry industry can survive. But in so long as you leave the threshold of import duty low, your market will be flooded with imports of poultry. And if you are not too careful, not too good poultry may enter your country. So that I perfectly agree with him that we can use trade policy in order to stimulate the growth of infant industry and support import substitution while developing our own export regime. Maybe let me share another frustration that I can end here. I'm sorry I won't be able to stay long. I have three other minutes, then I'll stay. If you take Ghana today, the largest importer of banana in Ghana today is a foreign-owned company. Exporter. Golden Exotic. Yet, look at how many people Golden Exotic employs. To that extent,